Hello, welcome to Cup of Joe, where once again we go to another edition of Give Me a Word. It is a time where we are studying some passages of Scripture, really verses of Scripture, and taking a deeper look at some words and giving you what those meanings are to somehow expand, blow out, and help us to see a little bit more of depth into some passages that I think have something to do with our lives. Today, we're going to look at Hebrews 10:25. Not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another. Now, we are recording this in the midst of a time where there are orders in some counties very close to us at the church where they have stay-at-home orders going on. We are in the midst of battling the coronavirus. Hopefully, by the time you watch this, things are even getting a little bit better. And then if you're watching it a year after we do it live, you'll remember back those days and go, whew, I'm glad they're over. And hopefully we're all there. But when we're recording it right now, we're not. And so this verse has a special meaning, at least to me right now, because we are going through a time where a lot of what's going on is that we are trying to communicate through other means. We're doing it via email, we're doing it via text, we're doing it via some video chat, video conferencing, and then you've been enjoying, hopefully, all the content that's out there on the Church at 434 in Motion. This is one of those programs. Created in the midst of that scenario, trying to find ways to connect and encourage and exhort you to hang in there and stay tough. The fact that we can't get together, though, is difficult. And you and I both know it's not the same talking through a video screen, talking through a webcam, going back and forth with some type of a live feed through Facebook or something else. It's just not the same. And one of the things that we've already heard over and over again is how much people are missing one another and looking forward to the moments where they can actually get back out and connect without thinking or worrying as much about social distancing. Now, in your life, in my life, there's also another element that becomes important, because when you are a follower of Jesus Christ, you recognize the fact that you are connected by God to one another for community. And you need that family that you're connected together because you're stronger that way. And so that's why so many of these online resources that we have created for you or we're sharing with you, we always are careful to tell you that they're just a resource. They're not a replacement. They're not a supplement. Well, they really are a supplement, but they're not supposed to supersede that idea that we need to get together. And so this passage has a little bit greater meaning. The word exhorting that's used in it, exhorting one another, is a powerful little word. It's a Greek word, parakaleo, a compound word of para and kaleo. Para means alongside, and kaleo means to call or beckon or to speak to someone. And when you put the two words together, it depicts someone who is right alongside of a person, urging them, beseeching them, begging them to do the right thing, to make the right decision, to keep moving forward. In the ancient Greek world, this was often used by military leaders before they sent their troops into battle. Rather than hide from the painful reality of war, the leaders would summon their troops together and speak straightforward to them. They would talk about the dangers of the battlefield, and the leaders would try to excite them about the glories that would come when the battle would be won. And rather than ignore the clear-cut dangers of the battle, these officers would come alongside their troops and they would urge and exhort and beseech and beg them to keep doing the right thing, to stand tall, throw in their shoulders, back each other up, go eyeball to eyeball, and face each enemy bravely without fear. That word, that phrasing that was common in military usage is the one that Paul chooses to use here in Hebrews. So if you know someone who is discouraged right now because their fight isn't won yet, they need a word from you. They need you to step alongside them and maybe just say the right thing, let them know that you're praying for them, ask them how you might help. They might need you to give them that gentle nudge that would keep them moving, kind of like a commanding officer might do to his troops. Sometimes that nudge, it might sound a little bit tougher, like, get moving, come on, it's time. Or it might be simple, like, I understand where you're at. Let me see how I might help you. Each person wired a little bit different. Each person wanting encouragement in a different way. But see, I think in our culture sometimes that we think that encouragement is more like a pat on the back going, hey, attaboy, attagirl, way to go, cowboy. But that's not what we're talking about here. This is a real physical coming alongside of one another and doing this thing together and doing life together. And that's why Paul talks about the fact that you don't forsake the assembling and the gathering of each other, because you need that to encourage one another, to exhort one another to be better. In other words, we're better together. And when we're not together, we're just not the best version of ourselves. And so when you use the word exhort and you kind of blow that meaning out and you really kind of apply it to the passage, an expanded translation of Hebrews 10:25 could say, when you're feeling down and out, like a failure who's falling behind everyone else, that isn't the time to stay away from other believers, as some are in the habit of doing. That is the very time that you need to come together for the sake of encouragement so that you can face your battles more bravely. One of the things I've discovered in ministry, time and time again, is when people begin to struggle, or they get down, or something's not going right, they tend to go underground. They tend to disappear. They start to mope, and they start to make themselves invisible. And yet the call of God is to do anything but that, because think of the big moments in your life when someone came alongside you and said the right thing at the right time, you heard the right word, and because you knew you weren't alone, you were able to do something that you couldn't have done by yourself. That's the verbs that we get here. That's the passage as it's laid out. And so it's almost as if the writer here is preparing the troops for battle. Maybe you feel like you're in a battle right now. Maybe you feel like there's a virus out there that is just whipping you and it's got you beat pretty good. In the press conferences, as they talk about the coronavirus, they call it the invisible enemy. And then the leaders will try to exhort us and remind us that we're going to beat this enemy and we're going to beat it together. And we're encouraged to do our part, trusting that everyone else will do their part, and we'll see what happens. Wherever you are in the journey, recognize your need for connection and the need that you have for encouragement. And then ask yourself, how might you encourage someone else? That's what the Word says, and we find it in the Word. So join me again next time for another Give Me a Word.